about every other sentence. And it dawns on me that River is flirtatious and charming, and he must connect with many women. Accepting this, I relax and sit back in my chair as I start telling him about my father and his obsession with music and concert t-shirts. I make sure not to repeat what I'd told him that night so long ago. I'm not sure why. Talking to him now, I realize that our conversation that night so long ago was just one of many intimate conversations he has probably had in his lifetime. It's his nature. It is who River Wilde is. I continued to talk freely with him because, honestly, I haven't felt this comfortable in a man's company in a long time. I try to keep in mind that it doesn't matter if he doesn't remember me. I'm having fun. And besides, I was the one who ran away from him that night. Seriously, how memorable could one conversation and one kiss with one girl in a crowded bar be anyway? Glancing at the clock on the wall, I notice it's almost 5 o'clock, and I have only just started the interview I needed to prepare for the Wild One's upcoming photo shoot. River must have seen the concern on my face, because he casually asks, "I don't have any pressing plans for tonight. We could finish the interview over dinner." I have spent the last hour discussing everything music with this attractive man. I told him about all the concerts I have been to. He told me about all the bands he has seen, and we listed our top songs, top artists, top singles, and top albums. Throughout our conversation, he continued to stare at me with those twinkling green eyes, grinning occasionally, even when what we were talking about wasn't funny. He played air guitar when I mentioned a song with a great string solo, and mocked playing drums when we talked about an artist who was known for his drumming ability. He seemed very playful, and I was enjoying myself immensely. Actually, I was having a blast. I'd even grabbed a pen and pretended to sing my favorite Britney song, which really made him laugh. So dinner. Why not? Just as I started to answer him, my cell phone rings in my purse. Picking the purse up off the table, I accidentally dump all of its contents. "Shit!" I yell, holding up my index finger. "Sorry, give me a sec. That could be my boss." I roll my chair back and kneel on the floor under the table to gather my things. I find my phone first, right in between River's feet. As I reach for it, I hear River clear his throat. "I can get that for you," he says before peering his head under the table. "But on second thought, I think I like this better," he says, pointing at my head between his legs. I move back a little to look at him and end up staring right at his crotch. I move quickly, trying to remove myself from this very awkward position, but as I do, I smack my head on the table. Standing back up, I hold my phone up and laugh a little before patting my head and saying, "Sorry about that, but I got it." He chuckles again. "Do you want me to get the rest of your stuff, or do you want to do it? I'm good, either way." Biting my lip, I say, "If you don't mind, I'll let you get it." Staring intensely at me, he runs his tongue over his bottom lip. "You sure? 'Cause I was enjoying myself." Then, not waiting for an answer, he scoots out of the chair and starts to gather everything. His mannerisms, his tone, his facial expressions, and his body language. It's all so charming. Disarming. He's the same as I remember, and right now, as he's putting my things back in my bag, all I can think about is how much I want him. Once everything is back in my bag, he asks, "And dinner?" I bite back a smile. "It sounds great, but we really need to get going. The offices close at 5 on Fridays." "That's no problem." Then pointing to the large tablet in the center of the table, he says, "I was really looking forward to Pictionary. Later, maybe?" I put the rest of my things away and say, "Let's go." He gestures for me to lead the way and looks me over from head to toe. "Do you want to drop your stuff off at your hotel before dinner?" he asks while grabbing his guitar and my suitcase from the corner. "Yeah, I'll just grab a cab and head to my hotel. I can meet you for dinner later." He runs a hand through his hair and looks at me. No, he's actually glaring at me. "Is that a nicer way of brushing me off?" he asks. I cringe, remembering that night, but since he doesn't even remember, I don't know why he suddenly seems aggravated. What? No! It's settled then. I have my car here. We'll just swing by your hotel first. His annoyance seems to have dissipated, and he no longer waits for me to take the lead. Instead, he grabs my hand, leading me to the elevator and out of the building. Chapter 7. Where We Belong. Ben is the only guy I've ever held hands with before, and we usually only held hands when we were in public. I don't really know if it was a gesture of affection or a way for Ben to let others know he was my boyfriend. Either way, when we held hands, we were palm in palm. Our hold was loose enough that if we needed to let go to allow someone to pass, it could easily be dropped. Why does River's hold feel so different? It's tight. Our fingers are laced, and he's rubbing circles along the top of my hand with his thumb. It feels intimate. Absorbed in my thoughts as we walk through the parking garage, I barely notice it's just as empty as the building. With his guitar slung over his shoulder, he runs his other hand through his hair, taking the lead as he heads toward what I assume is his car. It's a vintage black Porsche. He turns as we walk, and I see him crack a genuine smile. He has the cutest dimples. It's the first full-blown smile I've seen from him, and it's absolutely adorable. Arriving at his car, he gently lets go of my hand to reach into his front pocket for his keys. He unlocks my door and opens it for me to get in. He clutches my hand to assist me into the very low seat, and once I'm seated, he lifts my hand and kisses it. Instantly, I feel a sense of déjà vu, as if I'm back in the bar that night I met him so long ago. I sit quietly while he closes my door and walks around to put my things in the trunk. He opens his door and tosses his guitar in the small area behind us before he gets in. Grinning crookedly, he raises an eyebrow and gestures toward the car. So, do you like it? I bite my lip and raise my eyebrows. Isn't this James Dean's car? He shakes his head and laughs. Well, this one isn't his actual ride, obviously, but it's modeled after his 1955 little bastard. I giggle at the nickname, and I remember my dad's love for James Dean. We were both avid James Dean fans, so much so that we must have watched Rebel Without a Cause over 100 times. I think I knew all the lines by heart. I probably still do. He looks over at me curiously and says, "Can I ask you what you're thinking about?" Sighing at the memory, I lock the thoughts of my dad away. Dream as if you will live forever. Live as if you will die today. He places both hands on the steering wheel and glances over at me. The intensity of his powerful green eyes captures my full attention. I love that movie, and that's definitely one of my favorite lines. I put my seatbelt on before twisting sideways to face him. James Dean was my dad's favorite actor, and he always loved his car. So how fitting that I get to ride in a Spider in my lifetime. He responds as he puts on his seatbelt. Giving him a thumbs up, I say, "Hey, I really do like your car. It's actually pretty cool." His huge grin returns and his dimples resurface. Then, just as I remember him doing all those years ago to avoid awkwardness, he changes the subject. "Where to?" he asks as he pulls out of the garage. I tell him where I'm staying, and after what feels like only a few minutes, we pull up to the Hard Rock Hotel. He puts the car in park and glances over at me. "Stay there. I'll get your door." Walking around to my side of the car, he points and nods to the valet, indicating that he'll open my door. After pulling it back, he braces his hands on each side of the doorframe and leans in. He surrounds me with his intoxicating scent and overwhelming sexiness before he reaches for my hand. I shake my head and roll my eyes at his over-the-top chivalrous gesture, but thoroughly enjoy it. Stepping out of the very low car, I clutch his hand and laugh a little. "Thank you, kind sir." He guides me forward to close my door. Then, half grinning, he looks away, almost shyly. "You're welcome." He's so adorable. Standing very close, he gingerly pushes me back against the car, again bracing his hands on each side of me. He's close, but still not close enough. His eyes shift back to mine, piercing me, sending shivers down my spine. As he leans in toward me, he whispers in my ear, "Sir, yeah, I think I like the sound of that." I roll my eyes at his comment. He stares at me with his mesmerizing green eyes, then chuckles and asks me, "What? A guy can't be a gentleman?" I smile, actually impressed, and laugh. I never said that. He hands his car keys and some cash to the valet. "Just the bags in the trunk go to this beautiful girl's room. We won't be long." Hand in hand again, he leads me to the front desk. He stays close to me and I feel his hand occasionally, maybe accidentally brush against my outer thigh. Giving my name to the cute female clerk, he checks me in. She flashes him a flirty smile and asks if a credit card should be left on file for incidentals. He immediately hands over his card. When I protest, he just shrugs and winks at me. "Doesn't matter. I don't think you'll be charging anything." I've always been an independent person. With Ben, I would often get really upset if I thought he was infringing on it. Strange how for some reason, I'm not the least bit upset that this adorably charming man took control of getting me checked into my room. Actually, it's turning me on. Before handing me the room key, he looks at it while sliding his tongue over his lower lip and dragging his teeth across it. "I'll wait in the bar unless you need some help getting to your room." I stare at him and try to control my heavy breathing. I choose to focus on his flirty comment and not his overwhelming sex appeal, and just shake my head at him. Flirting back, I bite my bottom lip and look over his long, lean body in a very obvious manner. Then, cocking my head, I say, "I'm good, thanks." He responds with a slight groan, and his eyes flicker at me. I quickly turn, laughing to myself as I walk to the elevators without glancing back. As soon as I reach my room, I call the concierge and arrange to have my bags delivered. While waiting, I lie on the bed and try to figure out what is going on with my emotions. I feel a connection to River. We have the same ease we did the first night I met him. He's adorably charming, beyond charismatic, and more than attractive. All of the same qualities that made me want to stay with him that night at the bar and have me wanting to spend more time with him now. It's like he's reenacting parts of that night, even though he doesn't seem to remember it. I look around my hotel room at the pictures of guitars on the walls and thoughts of wanting someone to touch me, kiss me, be intimate with me flood my mind. Glancing out the window, I begin to question what I'm doing with River. Am I betraying Ben? How much time is enough time? Am I ready to be with someone else? I have only ever had sex with Ben. What if I suck at it with somebody else? Is this dinner actually a date, or is this just a business dinner? Am I prepared for a one-night stand with the man who twice captured my attention faster than anyone I have ever known? With everything racing through my mind, I'm only certain of my answer to the last question. I am. A knock on the door brings me out of my thoughts and jolts me off the bed. Oh yeah, my luggage. I ask the bellman to wait a sec while I get some money out of my purse. Answering quickly, he tells me it has already been taken care of by a man wearing a Fender t-shirt and black leather jacket. All I can do is smile. As I close the door, the hotel room phone rings and I slide across the bed to answer it. River's seductive voice comes through. "Just wanted you to know I made dinner reservations at 9 Steakhouse, in case you want to change, or not. They couldn't fit us in until 8. Is that okay?" "Sounds great, actually. I'll change and come down." I can hear him chuckling on the other end of the phone. "Do you need help?" Giggling, I roll over and stand up so I can hang up the phone. "I'm good. Thanks, though. I'll be down in a few minutes." I hide my face in my hands. I can't help but laugh out loud. In no way would I ever classify our conversations as professional. He's flirting with me and I'm flirting back. It's fun and exciting, and I feel like I'm finally living again. Thanking God that I packed extra clothes. I'm happy that I had trouble deciding what to wear this morning. I packed a few different outfits in case I wanted to change before the meeting, along with clothes for a quick morning run. I take out a dress from my suitcase. It has a crisscross silk top with an asymmetrical black leather miniskirt bottom and a drawstring waist. It's edgy and short, perfect for dinner with an almost famous, adorably charming rock star. I pair it with my black ankle strap pumps and silver clutch. Since I never change my jewelry, my wardrobe for tonight is set. I've worn the same jewelry every day for as many years as I can remember. A pair of 2-carat diamond studs, given to me by my parents for my 13th birthday. My grandmother's vintage watch with a black satin band and diamond surround. My aunt's white pearl and black pearl bracelets. My most recently added Cartier bangle, and the engagement ring from Ben that I still wear on a chain around my neck. Looking in the mirror as I quickly strip down to jump in the shower, I wince at what I see. Knowing actual clothing choice is irrelevant to men, but looking sexy certainly isn't, I shake my head at myself. That's definitely not sexy looking back at me. My tall, thin frame is now soft. I've lost most of my muscle tone, along with the definition I spent years working on at the gym and in Pilates classes. What is left is merely skin and bones. My legs have very little shape, and any semblance of the small chest I once had is now gone. Even the bra I just removed is too big. Suddenly, I have doubts that the hot, attractive, and charming man waiting for me downstairs will even want what I'm willing to give. But I've decided to just let fate take its course, so I take a shower, brush my teeth, fix my face, spritz on some body spray, and put on my 2 big black bra and panties before slipping on my dress and shoes. I look in the mirror again and flip my hair over to brush it so that my now ashen blonde hair falls in a cascading mess down my back. And then I give myself a self-assuring smile. As I look away from the bathroom mirror, I turn back and decide I probably shouldn't wear my engagement ring when I go out with another man. It just doesn't feel right. Just for tonight, I should remove my necklace. As I do, visions of Ben slipping it on my finger come to mind, and I try to suppress them, but that was a happy time for me, and I actually smile at the memory. After I remove the necklace and kiss my engagement ring, sadness fills my heart. I swallow hard to hold it back. I almost feel like I should be begging his forgiveness for my thoughts, my wants, and my needs. As I continue to look at the ring, a constant reminder of Ben, I know I will never forget him, but I have to put him away just for now. So I kiss my ring one more time and turn to lock it in the safe, saying a soft, "I will always love you." While gathering my things, I hear a faint knock on the door. I open it without even looking to see who it is. He's standing there, leaning against the doorframe with his head down and a beautiful grin on his face. I can't help myself as I quickly look over his long, lean body. He's tall, slightly muscular like a swimmer, and has crazy light brown hair with copper strands. He's insanely attractive. When my eyes meet his, he simply undoes me, completely mesmerizes me. For the first time today, I feel the same electric pull that I felt between us that night. I also finally realize what the something else was that I couldn't figure out back then. What was driving me to him? It is awareness. Not only am I completely aware of him, but he's also completely aware of me. Still standing in the doorway, I catch him studying my body, and then he leans in toward me. Unable to control myself, my body sways closer to his, and a small noise escapes my throat. I hear him inhale in response. We are so close. I think he's going to kiss me, but instead he rests his forehead on mine, and I can feel his breath on my jaw. Our foreheads remain connected for a few short seconds before he glides his nose over my cheek. Exhaling a heavy breath as his mouth lightly grazes my ear, he whispers, "You look beautiful. Perfect, really." His intimacy catches me off guard. My stomach is filled with butterflies. I didn't expect his contact, nor did I expect his kind words. I have to bite my bottom lip and swallow hard to resist the urge to pull him over to my bed and just be done with it. Instead, I decide to take a step back and wrap my arms around myself to stop my uncontrollable quivering. With his gleaming green eyes gazing at me so intensely, I manage to find my voice and say in an octave or two higher than usual, "Thank you, kind sir. Did I take too long?" Before he can respond, his phone rings, but he ignores it. The distraction is fine with me, because it keeps him from noticing my reaction to his touch. He continues to look at me with that mesmerizing gaze. I almost feel like he's deciding if he wants to eat me for dinner, which would suit me just fine. Stepping back, he braces his arms on both sides of the doorframe and shakes his head. "No, I just wanted to make sure your bags were delivered." I smile warmly at this thoughtfulness and inhale his intoxicating scent. "Yes, they were. Thank you very much." Stepping under his arms and into the hallway, I turn to glance at him as the door closes. "I'm ready." I grin when I hear that sound from him again. Already I figured out that he makes that sound when I do something unexpected or when he finds something I said or did funny. He takes my hand and leads me to the elevator. Exiting the building, we walk to his car waiting for us out front. Driving out of the parking lot, he pulls his car over to the side of the road and cocks his head toward me. "Did I tell you how amazing you look?" His voice is soft with a rough, whispering, raspy tone. Losing myself in his green eyes, I answer honestly, "Yes, actually you did, but I don't mind hearing it from you again." With his eyes locked on mine, he nods his head. "Just wanted to make sure you knew." Grinning, he turns back to face the road and pulls out of the hotel parking lot. "Mind if I change before we head out?" He pauses a second to look at me, and when he sees me shake my head, he continues, "You can grab a drink while I take a quick shower." Then thumbing to the back seat where his guitar is, he says, "I have to drop my guitar off anyway. I had a photo shoot before our meeting and they wanted pictures of me with her." I giggled despite myself. "Her?" He calls his guitar her. "What?" he asks in mock offense. Still giggling, I ask, "Does your girl have a name?" Laughing back, he answers, "Stella. Her name is Stella. And don't make fun. She's the only girl I have ever really counted on." Having stopped my giggling and replaced it with appreciation, I say, "I'm not making fun. I actually get it. I feel the same way about my camera." And for good measure, I laugh a little and say, "Maybe I should name him." The humor having entered back into our conversation, he chuckles along. "Him? Him, her, I don't know. I've never given it that much thought. But having a girl sleep in my room with me every night isn't my thing." I know this will elicit a reaction. He's full out chuckling now. You should see the picture I have in my head right now. No pun intended." Pouting my lips, I raise my eyes upward. "I'd rather not." "That look was hot," he says after letting out a soft groan. We stop at a red light and my giggle fest is over. As I glance over at him and he's looking at me, I wonder if he can see into the future, because the look he's giving me tells me he sees what I see. His phone rings again from his pocket and he ignores it again. He slowly reaches over, grabs a strand of my hair, and very slowly tucks it behind my ear, sending shivers down my spine. Circling his index finger around my ear, he lightly tugs on my lobe, sparking a heat within my body that I have only felt once before. My body starts to quiver. I look up to meet his hooded eyes and decide to just come out and ask him if he remembers me. But before the words can come out, horns start honking, the light has turned green, and I close my mouth. As we enter the Palms Place Hotel and Spa driveway, he continues to tell me about his new album, but I'm having a really hard time concentrating on anything other than how attracted I am to him. He stops the car and peers over at me. "Dahlia, did you hear me?" Blinking at him, I shake my head. "Sorry, should I be taking notes?" I have no idea what he just said, and the funny thing is, I really am interested in his new album, and not only for work. "Yes, this is really important stuff." Then, grinning mischievously, he says, "I asked if you have ever stayed here before." My door opens and the valet is standing in front of me. River meets me on the sidewalk and continues his teasing. "So, did you get that down?" I pout my lips and roll my eyes. "No, I have never stayed here." I smirk and then add, "Smart ass." With a little more boldness than I intend, I say, "And don't say it." Cocking his head to one side, he asks, "Say what?" That my look was hot. First of all, what makes you think I was going to say that? Secondly, it was. A greeting from the doorman helps distract him. I'm grateful because I knew what he was going to say. He said the very same thing to me today, and the night we met. With our hands together, we walk through the lobby of the hotel. But as we wait for the elevator, I realize he's still holding my hand, and we're no longer walking. We are standing still, holding hands as he looks at me with his intense green eyes and rubs circles on the top of my hand with his thumb. He's explaining that he likes staying here because it's close to everything, but peaceful and quiet. I can see what he means. This place immediately puts me at ease. Dropping my hand as we approach the elevator, he reaches for his wallet and takes out his room key so he can put it in the key slot and push the button for penthouse A. I'm relieved that he doesn't have a single room like mine, because what am I supposed to do while he showers? Sit on his bed and drink? As we ascend, he leans against the elevator door with his foot on the wall, his hands in his pockets, facing me. He smiles slightly, and I can see traces of his dimples. Then out of nowhere, he breaks out in song, singing an ode to the t-shirt I wore earlier today. He seems lost in the song as he sings, "Lola." He's so attractive, and watching him sing makes my breath quicken and my insides tighten. When he reaches the line about cherry cola, he grins crookedly. His voice is amazing, and I just close my eyes and listen, trying to control my breathing. He stops singing before he gets to the next line about sipping champagne. I'm hyper-aware of his closeness without even opening my eyes. He comes to stand directly in front of me, and his breath is noticeably quicker. He places a kiss on my hand before leaning into my ear and whispering, "Do you like cherry cola?" Then the elevator door opens, and the moment is lost. Chapter 8. Something More. I can't stop thinking about everything that has already happened today as we exit the elevator. River grabs my hand and leads me down a magnificently decorated hallway. The floor is checkered in varying tones of white tiles. The walls are a spa blue with creamy white-colored frames equally spaced apart, each housing different photographs of the desert, secured by glass panels. Walking down the hallway, I begin to wonder about this something more as my mind drifts back to the question I asked myself so long ago. Does love at first sight really exist? If I had asked myself that question 5 years ago, I'd have said absolutely not. The love that Ben and I had for each other evolved over our many years together. I can't even remember when our love went from the love between two friends to falling in love. Then one drunken girls' night out, I met the man who is now leading me to his hotel room and wondered to myself, could I suddenly believe in love at first sight? How could love at first sight even exist when you were already in love with someone else? But now, after River's serenade in the elevator, I'm asking myself that very same question, only this time, the man I was in love with is gone. Ben is just a beautiful memory. Ridding my mind of any thoughts about love, I choose to focus on lust instead. My body begins to tremble slightly, and I feel an ache that seems to radiate from everywhere. I want this man to touch me. I need him to touch me. Honestly, I want more. A lot more. I'm fairly certain he wants that too. All I have to do is finish my interview first, so we can move on to what I've wanted to do since I first saw him. River pauses at the door while he takes the key that's in his hand and slides it into the key slot. He drops his hand and puts it on the small of my back as he guides me into the suite. Walking in, I mentally take back my thoughts that he's almost famous. This suite is definitely for famous people. It has floor-to-ceiling windows along the entire back wall. The living room is decorated similar to the hallway, with soft color tones and a fireplace. The dining room has a light beechwood table for 12, and the kitchen is equipped with white marble countertops, a built-in coffee maker, and even a gas stove. The hardwood and marble flooring is like nothing I've seen in a hotel suite before. There's even a small swimming pool with a hot tub on the balcony overlooking the strip. The suite is bigger than my house. Setting his guitar down in the corner, he leaves his hand on my back while guiding me toward the window. He stands still for a moment, and I wonder what he is thinking. Before I can speak, he slides his tongue over his bottom lip in an insanely hot manner. We're so close that I can feel his warm breath on the nape of my neck. I admire his gorgeous face and smooth skin. I can almost touch his defined abdominal muscles through his t-shirt. He is so unbelievably good-looking. I feel my heart quicken, and if he gets any closer, I might just free fall out the window, but I continue to look at him. His facial features are so alluring. He has a strong jaw, a sculpted nose, an extremely toned body, and his personality is captivating. There isn't another view in Las Vegas like the one from this window at night, he says while unlocking the sliding glass doors and opening them. I hope you plan to stick around to see the city light up. Not waiting for an answer, he brushes by me to walk toward the kitchen, but not before dragging his fingers across the span of my back. His soft touch sends tingles all the way up to my neck. On his way into the kitchen, he texts something on his phone, but I don't ask what. Watching River walk that walk to the kitchen, I can only smile. Is that an invitation? Because I didn't think I needed one, I tease. You don't, he says as he turns back to catch me staring at his backside. He winks at me, and then grins so wide his dimples are almost pulsing. River plugs his phone into an iPod dock on the counter, and U2's Beautiful Day surrounds us as he glances at me, a small grin curving from his lips, and he hums along to the song. What is he doing? Opening the refrigerator, River pulls out 2 bottles of beer and lifts one up. Is this okay? I'm not really a good bartender, but I can try to whip up something if you want. I nod, still smiling. It's perfect. Can I get a glass of ice, please? I hear River say, grinning at me and shaking his head. He starts opening and closing a few cupboards until he finds the glasses. He pulls down 2 and places them on the counter. After filling one with ice from the dispenser on the refrigerator door, he walks toward the large L-shaped sofa and motions for me to come over and have a seat. As I walk toward him, I can't help but notice how hot he looks. He's like a magnet, and I'm being pulled toward him against my will. Raising an eyebrow, he says, "What are you smiling about?" "Nothing. Everything. I don't know," I say, shrugging my shoulders and trying to resist his pull. I hear again as he walks closer to me. He motions with one hand for me to sit. I do as he suggests, and he hands me my drink. That's not very definitive. It wasn't meant to be. Now I'm distracted by his messy but perfect hair. I want to ask him if he has any idea how attractive he is. What's wrong with me? I'm giddy like a teenager, for Christ's sakes. Taking a large sip of my drink to cool down my overheated body, I immediately feel it, a brain freeze. I squint my eyes, trying to stop it, to will it away. Much colder with ice, I hear him start to say, but the end of his sentence trails off. I look up as he sets his glass on the table. He must have noticed my brain freeze face, because he says, "Close your eyes." I look at him quizzically while squinting. Brain freeze, right? I nod my head and close my eyes. Placing his fingers on each side of my temples, River firmly presses into my skin and massages in circles. I feel his nose in the crook of my neck, but this time on his way up to my ear, he allows his lips to skim the most sensitive flesh of my neck. When he reaches my ear, he whispers, "Better." Nodding my head slowly, I open my eyes, aware of how close we are. My breathing starts to speed up. Does he realize what that move does to me? I really want to grab him, but I restrain myself, remembering dinner and the interview. Yes, dinner and interview. Pulling back to a safe distance, River once again changes topics. He asks me about where I grew up, what I was like in high school, where I went to college, and what my life is like now. My mind drifts back to Ben time and time again. I'm finding it difficult to not mention him, as he occupies my every memory. I'm talking to River, but Ben is in my head. I start to wonder what the hell I'm doing. A knock at his door distracts me from my thoughts of Ben, for now. "That must be the food," River says. A waiter wheels in a table full of plates covered with silver domes. After River hands him a tip, I shoot him a questioning look. "Yes," he says as he removes the domes to reveal an array of nibble-sized bites. "When did you order food?" I ask, squinting my eyes and pouting my lips. "Texted down to the kitchen," he says, making a slight groaning noise, and with his eyelids half closing he adds, "That look is hot." I knew he'd say that. All I can do is shake my head, because what I really want to do is lie him down on the couch. What's his game? He's driving me to the edge, and there's no way he isn't there too. He was almost panting after his last move. Pushing aside my desire for him, we talk for almost another hour while we continue to drink and eat. When we have both finished our second beer, mine with ice, his without, River stands up. "Feel free to make yourself at home while I take a quick shower." I'm watching River leave the room, admiring that walk that I can't get enough of, and the way his hair sticks out in the back when he turns around and winks at me. Having caught me staring, he mumbles something I can't really hear, but sounds strangely like, "You could join me if you want." Disappearing into what I can only assume is the bedroom, I consider joining him. I really want to, but I'm here for work. Damn, I really need to get my shit together and get that interview done. I make my way over to the balcony and I step outside. Horns are blowing, lights are flashing, and people are everywhere. As I look down at all the chaos, I think about how I want so badly to just feel alive again. But everything still reminds me of Ben. Even here, with this incredibly hot yet adorably charming man, my mind wanders back to when we took a trip to Las Vegas after I finished graduate school. A group of our friends planned a couples weekend, but it was more like a guys' weekend and a girls' weekend combined. As soon as we arrived, the guys hit the casino, and I never saw Ben again until he came stumbling into our room around 4 a.m, drunk and not ready for sleep. The next day we spent the morning together in our room, and he met the guys in the afternoon. Then I didn't see him again until he stumbled into our room just in time to catch a cab back to the airport. That was the way we were, and honestly, I had a great time with my girlfriends that weekend. We played blackjack, did some shopping, ate fabulous food, and went clubbing at night. Suddenly, a pair of strong arms surrounds me as River places his hands on the railing, suspending my memories of Ben. I want to lean into him, to feel his hard body against mine. Instead, I inhale his now familiar scent and close my eyes. Every nerve in my body is electrified. 2 years of neglect has my body screaming for this man to touch me. "Should we catch the sunset before we head out?" River says, standing so close, yet way too far away. "I would love that. The sky is so clear. The sunset is going to be gorgeous." I don't turn around, barely moving a muscle, because the pull of my body to his is so strong right now, I can hardly restrain myself. "Yeah, it is." I can tell by the way his warm breath is hitting my ear that he's not looking at the sun, and that thrills me. Being surrounded by River and watching the sunset feels so right that I try to rid my mind of any thoughts of Ben so that I can focus on River. But focusing on anything right now is hard to do. He's so close to me that it's driving me crazy. After we watch the sunset, River moves back, leaving one hand on the rail next to me. "Ready?" "Yes," I say, glancing up to his gorgeous face. When I turn completely around, I see him for the first time since he emerged from the bedroom. He's wearing frayed black jeans with a gray button-down shirt that reveals a hint of his defined muscles, a belt, and black work boots. I notice that he is about the same build as Ben, maybe just slightly taller. River grins as he notices me staring. "Do you see something you like?" Before I can respond, I stumble slightly, and River's mouth is at my neck, only because that's where I landed. River doesn't hesitate to use the opportunity to glide closer to my ear and whisper, "Hey, gorgeous, you okay?" I feel his breath, his lips lightly grazing my neck, but unlike the last time, he doesn't pull back immediately, and the electric pull intensifies. Responding in a very raspy tone, I start, "Absolutely, River doesn't let me finish my sentence. He gently pushes me back against the rail. His arms are extended on either side of me. He's caging me in, but once again, I don't feel trapped. He never moves his lips away from my neck as he repositions us. My breathing is hitched, and my heartbeat has doubled as I tilt my head back to allow him full access to my neck. He's softly running a trail of kisses from my neck up to my mouth, slowly, lightly licking, softly sucking, until his lips finally meet mine. Parting my lips, I think I hear a groan from the back of his throat, and I know I hear a small moan of my own as his mouth presses against mine. I'm frozen, unable to move, not even able to lace my arms around him because I'm wrapped up in a different emotion. It's happiness growing inside me, overshadowing the sorrow. I feel my darkest days slipping away, right here, right now, with him, and I'm paralyzed. My body starts to tremble, and I put my hands on his chest for support. He's gently kissing me, sucking my bottom lip before he suddenly presses his mouth harder to my lips, his tongue colliding against mine. As soon as I start sliding my hands down his chest, he groans again, louder this time, but then draws back. And just like that, our first real kiss is over. But it wasn't just a kiss. It was so much more. When our tongues met, it felt like our souls connected with each other. This soulmate feeling confuses me, but looking at him makes me smile. He grins back at me as he takes my hand, leading me through the living room and out the door without a word. Standing in the elevator, our hands still connected, each lost in our own thoughts, we don't look at each other, and we still don't speak. Memories of Ben flood my mind, but these memories are fleeting. I can't remember my body reacting to Ben's touch like it just did to River's. He's so seductive and alluring. He makes me want more than the kiss we just shared. Then I remember how skinny and frail I must appear. I shake off my self-doubt because I'm not a needy, insecure girl. Maybe it's time to cut my losses and run, finish this interview, and take the next plane home. As the doors open, River asks me if I'm hungry, and I'm brought back to the present. I nod my head in response. We exit the elevator and walk through the lobby toward the doors. I'm thinking, Just finish your job and leave. I stop abruptly when I remember that I don't have any of the materials I need. I left my messenger bag in my hotel room when River knocked unexpectedly on my door. Shit, I forgot my bag and I need it for the interview. River laughs, leans in quietly, and seductively whispers, "Could we do the interview thing tomorrow? Because you're looking far too sexy for me to concentrate on anything other than you." My emotions are a tangled mess as he signals for a cab. "Are you playing some kind of game with me?" "What do you mean?" he asks, running his hands through his hair. He sounds genuinely confused as he opens the cab door. Trying to keep my voice down, I say, "What do I mean?" Then I point to the top floor of the building as we scoot into the cab. "What was that up on the balcony?" River tells the cab driver, 9 Steakhouse, please." That was a kiss, and I think, no, I know you know what that is. His tone is suddenly much harsher. My eyes open wide and my mouth drops open. I'm at a loss for words. I don't have to speak because River does first. We've met before, you know. I look at him, perplexed, and a little hurt that he didn't mention it before. I nod my head, indicating that of course I remember. Then in a low, raspy voice I answer, "You remember meeting me and haven't said anything until now? Why?" In an equally low voice, but with the harshness seemingly gone, he says, "Why haven't you, Dahlia?" He's looking at me with his powerful green eyes, and I know there's no seeing the future in them right now. With honesty pouring out of me, and thankful that he actually does remember me, I answer, "I just didn't think you remembered me. That's the only reason." And I wonder why he seems to think there's more to it than that. "Right," he says almost with a laugh, his harsh tone returning. He clenches his fists as he leans his head back on the cab seat. I stare out the window to avoid his gaze. We're sitting still in traffic. I'm trying not to cry, and I'm feeling conflicted. I don't know what to think. After all the flirting, the attraction, and now the bitterness, I know I have to remove myself from this confusing situation. With sudden clarity, I turn my entire body to face him. Doing this with a dress on isn't easy. I brace my hand on the seat in front of me so the slick leather bottom of my skirt doesn't slide across the bench, and I cross my legs. The cab starts moving again. Horns are blowing, and bright-colored lights are flashing everywhere. "River, I don't want to play games. I don't know what is going on here, but let's just go back to my hotel, let me get my stuff, finish the interview, and then we can say our goodbyes." I let him know this in as flat a tone as I can manage, knowing this is not what I want, but what needs to happen. Ignoring my request, he turns toward me. With his elbows up on the ledge of the window and his knee slightly bouncing, he says, "Dahlia, I'm not playing any games here. I'm just trying to figure things out. So let's start with the night we met, okay?" I nod, but think this isn't going to go well at all. Sitting up, and in a monotone, he asks rather harshly, "Why did you leave the bar that night with another guy?" "What are you talking about?" Staring at me, he says, "Dahlia, come on, just tell me the truth." "I didn't leave with any guy. I left with my girlfriend, Ari. So what are you talking about?" Running his fingers through his hair, he hisses between his teeth, "After my gig, you were gone. I thought we had some intense connection. Then I had to go back on stage, and you said you'd wait for me, but you didn't. You just left. Later that night, I had to stop by my brother's frat house to look for my sister, who left without us. And I saw you there. You were standing with some guy near the stairs, and he was sucking on your neck." He says the last part with disgust, and I start to feel a little queasy. Never did I think my worlds would collide like this. With my eyes pleading forgiveness, I say, "River, that wasn't just some guy. That was my boyfriend, and I was afraid of what might happen between you and me. That's why I left when I did." That's fucking fantastic news to hear now. That wasn't something you thought you should share then? My eyes start tearing up as I say, it's not like that. You don't understand. He curls his lip into a sneer as the cab starts inching its way to nowhere. While gritting his teeth and looking at the floor, he says, really? Because I think I understand pretty well. You were out for fun and looking to have a good time. Raising his gaze to meet mine, he continues with, do you have a boyfriend now? I flush, swallowing back my tears. I'm a little pissed myself now at his bitter reaction, so in a slightly clipped tone I answer, no. Ben was my boyfriend, but he died almost 2 years ago, and actually, he was my fiancé. His eyes flash to mine, and I see compassion, and maybe a little bit of pain in them. He studies my face like he's trying to bring back the last 5 years, but doesn't know how. Is he the same guy? The boyfriend from the party and your fiancé? Yes, Ben was my boyfriend since we were like 5. Well, not really, but it seemed like it. We actually knew each other since we were 5. Is all River says at first. Then after a few beats he looks at me. His eyes are a little softer, and he seems more sympathetic. And just like that, the charming man who captivates me is back. That explains a lot. Why? He doesn't get to finish his question as the cab driver announces our arrival at the restaurant. I put my hand on his knee. I'm a little shaken by our exchange, but for some reason drawn even more to him. I don't know if we can recover from this, and honestly, I'm afraid to go too much further in case we can't. River, let's just end this here. Taking my hand from his knee, he lifts it to his mouth and lightly kisses it in the same way he has done before. My goosebumps return, and I have to swallow a few times to get the huge lump out of my throat. Still holding on to my fingers, our hands now resting on his leg, he lifts my chin with his other hand and rubs his thumb over my lips. Dahlia, please stay and have dinner with me. You owe me that much for standing me up that night. Then let's see what happens. He says this very softly, almost like a whisper as he continues to run his thumb back and forth over my bottom lip. The cab driver gets out of the cab and opens my door. I'm sure it's to move us along. As resolutely as I can, I say, okay, fine, dinner and then the interview. But I know that's not all I meant. It's time to remove our masks to see if there really is something more between us. But in order to do this, I have to get my emotions under control. This is easier said than done around River Wild, especially because, as I get out of the cab, I can still feel the searing heat left behind on my lips from his touch. Chapter 9. Hold My Heart. There were some things I expected when I landed in Las Vegas this morning. Casinos, alcohol, slot machines, crap tables, neon lights, and even River Wild. What I didn't expect was the bitter conversation that had just taken place in the cab. He leads me to the elevator inside the large glass building. While we stand in silence, I take the opportunity to collect my thoughts as we rise the 40 floors to the restaurant. First, he remembers me. Second, he was, I'm not sure which, upset with me for leaving that night. Finally, he went to the Kappa Sigma party to look for his sister and saw me with Ben. The facts are easier to sort than the feelings that accompany them. It's my feelings I can't seem to get a handle on. They're intensifying with every word he says to me. And although I don't really know him, this doesn't dampen the unspoken truth that I feel more connected to him right now than to any other living man. These feelings drive me to stay here, to not walk away. But the biggest reason keeping me here is that I actually get him. He's mad right now, but what I see are his struggles between his emotions and his charm. I can see through his anger to his wounded pride from being stood up. He's hurt. The fact that I get him intrigues me. It captivates me and makes me want him more. These thoughts swirl in my head as I exit the elevator into the restaurant.
We walk hand in hand, and I'm wondering how this can be real. Doubts start to cloud my mind. Is he on the up and up, or is he trying to get back at me for leaving that night? Is this all a game? Or can we put the past behind us? Can I tell him about Ben? Why is he asking me to stay while pushing me away at the same time? My doubts mix with my certainties, but what I'm most concerned about is that every time he looks at me, it feels like he's seeing through to my soul. I'm desperately trying to shut out thoughts of Ben, but for some reason the conversation keeps leading back to him in my mind. As the hostess leads us to a secluded U-shaped booth, I notice the beautiful view of Las Vegas. Our booth faces the interior of the restaurant, and a wall of glass stands to our right. Sliding into the booth, I turn to look out at the view and long for peace of mind. I stay very close to the edge of the booth, not allowing River access from my end. He smirks at me when I don't move in, but doesn't say anything. He just nods as he gets in from the other side and sits down. The restaurant is dimly lit, but there is an ominous glow coming from the candle in the center of the table, and I swear from River too. As we sit in silence, I know he's staring at me. I can feel it, but I don't look at him. Instead, I shift my eyes down to study my menu. When the waiter approaches, he asks what I would like to drink, and I order my trademark cocktail. A filthy Grey Goose martini with extra olives, please. River orders a bottle of beer and starts chuckling. Looking at him for the first time since we sat down, I ask, "What's so funny?" He's staring at me, and my gaze shifts to meet his eyes as he says, "Filthy. That sounds really hot." I smile coyly at him, but I don't break our eye contact. I decide to join in the banter and ignore the sexual undertone. I only drink 3 types of drinks. Then, holding one finger up in the air, I say, "Beer with ice." Holding a second finger up in the air, "Martinis." And finally, holding a third finger up, "And champagne, but only with a strawberry." Then I decide to go for it and mention something from our first meeting. And oh yeah, an occasional shot, but then you already knew that. Running his hands through his hair, he raises an eyebrow. "Yes, I do. I remember that very well, actually." And there it is again, a melange of shuffled signals where words and body language aren't always in sync, but our emotions and body language seem to be oddly connected. Finally deciding to just cut to the point, I say what's running through my mind. "River, what kind of game are you playing? Is this your way of luring me in? Because if it is, I'm not interested. I'm not a groupie." I feel relieved as soon as the words are out there. He inches closer to me, but is still a good distance away. Putting his fingers on the table, he starts tapping it. He looks at me intently and says, "Dahlia, I'm not playing any game. I'm just interested in you. And I know you're not a groupie." His fingers stop tapping the table, and he reaches over to where my hand is clutching the hem of my skirt. He takes it and rests both of our hands on my leg, his over mine. I noticed he hasn't laced our fingers together, though. He clears his throat. "I'm just trying to figure that night out. Believe me, the facts are pretty clear, but it's the whys I'm struggling with." River looks at me for a beat, dragging his tongue over his lower lip before continuing. "The night we met, you didn't say anything about having a boyfriend or not being able to stick around." With his eyes still piercing through me, he pauses as if waiting for a response, even though he hasn't asked a question. The restaurant seems very quiet as I return his gaze and just nod my head in agreement. All the while I know what he said is the truth, and that he hasn't asked for the explanation. Before River can continue, the waiter returns with our drinks and asks us if we're ready to order. River asks him to give us a few minutes. Once the waiter leaves, he raises his glass, and out of politeness, I do the same. "To beautiful days," he says, and clinks his glass to mine. I can't help but smile about him remembering the concert t-shirt I wore that night, but this also infuriates me. "That's what I mean." "What?" he says, looking confused. "That. You're so back and forth with me, with your actions, with your emotions. You act like you don't remember me, then spring on me that you do. You flirt with me, and then you stop on a dime. You kiss me, and then you pull away as soon as I touch you. You're mad, then you're not. I don't stop to take a breath or let him speak before finally raising the hand he's holding and letting it go. You're holding my hand, then... I trail off, not sure of how to finish that thought. Tearing my gaze from his, I try to rein in my emotions,